Hey you guys, what's up? I'm Ashley from heavenathome.org, and this is the Heaven at Home podcast, where my goal is to encourage you in your personal growth journey while being open, honest, and owning my story. We have faith-based conversations and tackle a bunch of different tough topics. Check out the description to follow me and learn more. Remember, you are fully known and deeply loved. Let's do this. Hey you guys, okay, so today we're going to be talking about some rules for comparison. And just in even starting to think about this topic, my mind automatically kind of defaults to a teacher mentality, and even a little bit of my upbringing. Like, comparison is one of the things that we are taught. Like, we're taught how to compare and contrast. We're taught about how to notice differences, how to describe differences, how to observe differences. Is something bigger or smaller, something more, something less? And so there is a part of me that understands comparison is somewhat fundamental to our learning experience. It's fundamental to the way that we perceive the world. It's, important to be able to look at something objectively and say what it is, even if it's in comparison to something else. And as a person who studied elementary education, um, I have a conceptual understanding of why comparison is necessary. But I think I've narrowed down where comparison starts to become a problem for me and in daily life and in application. And I think it's when we start comparing people. Like, I think it's okay to compare things sometimes, but a bit more dangerous to compare people, to compare yourself to someone else, to compare two people against each other. And let me just first share like one of the ways that I do compare myself to people. And I know that this is something that I've brought up in previous episodes and previous conversations I've had with you guys, like especially in consideration of the ways that I'm trying to grow on a personal level, on a spiritual level, a relational level. A lot of times I'd get frustrated by not being able to see healthy examples, not being able to see what it looks like when something is done right. And to me, that is a practical application of comparison, because I'm like, okay, I'm seeing what I'm doing. Maybe I can observe some things that are unhealthy, some things that are toxic, some things I need to work on, but I have no healthy comparison to see what it looks like to, like maybe hold healthy boundaries, preserve my energy, preserve my mind, or preserve a relationship. Like, that is the way that I think comparison can be helpful. Like I said, comparison is helpful when there is an objective of learning happening, when you're trying to observe something accurately. But I just feel like there's a need to have a lot more guards in place so that you don't get stuck in an unhealthy cycle. And I know that when it comes to more superficial levels of comparison, like comparing beauty, comparing body composition, comparing money, success, those are a lot easier for me sometimes to quickly dismiss on an internal level. Like, I remember one time, this was, I think this was actually in a church or worship setting experience. I think someone was trying to challenge me and encourage me to grow in prophetic worship and being willing to just be more receptive of the Holy Spirit in a corporate environment enough to bring that into like worship and stuff. But they did it by comparing me to a person who had done it right in that moment. and it didn't sit well with me. Um, that approach didn't sit well with me. And if you even notice in the way that I described that situation, I like to assume the best in people. I think it's important to assume the best in people. No one is always going to be perfect. No one is always going to say the perfect thing. No one's going to always know how to deliver the message in a way that another person needs to hear it. And I give grace for that. But just on a personal level, when I notice I'm comparing myself to someone else and where they might be, in their journey, and when others try to put that onto me, it's a lot easier for me to kind of guard against that. Um, and yeah, so I'll get a bit more into like some of the rules that I have, but I just want to start off by saying, what even is comparison in this context? And to me, comparison is measuring your worth, your progress, or your identity against someone else's life in aspects of like appearance, success, like especially like even when it comes to character success, like wow, like this person is doing really well in having a gentle disposition, a good disposition, a peaceful tone, a peaceful way of communicating, like, like things like that. Even when it comes to abstract things that you can't tangibly see, that to me is still comparison. And so, like I said, it's natural, it's part of our learning experience, but I do think it has the potential to become really unhealthy when it shifts our focus from a growth oriented perspective to all of a sudden like a grading perspective, like a metric or um yeah, I don't know how else to explain that. um and to me, the fruit of that, like the way that I can tell that comparison is healthy or not, is by looking at the fruit. Like, does this make me feel, does comparing myself in this way, in this fashion, is it making me want to improve myself? Is it serving as a learning experience? Does it give me a growth oriented mindset? Does it make me feel like I can attain the goal that I want? Does it ultimately help me honor God, honor people I love, honor myself? Like, is it doing that? Or on the opposite end, is it producing envy, insecurity, or pride? And it's really easy, like, especially with social media, like, you see someone's vacation, you see their new job, their engagement, all the things that other people have, and you can very easily start feeling like you're behind in some ways when you're just scrolling through social media. And I feel like that's an even dangerous example too, because oftentimes we're not intentionally, thoughtfully thinking about the information that we're taking in. We're just mindlessly scrolling along. Um, at work is another example. Like a coworker gets praise, or they get a compliment, they get the promotion, and you know you might feel overlooked. You might feel like you're not good enough, or these are examples of unhealthy comparison. In parenting, you see another mom being more patient, more organized, or more favored by other people for the way that she's doing things, and you start to feel like a failure. You start to think like, oh man, I'm not a good mom because only this person is a good mom, and this is the only right way to do that. In church and ministry settings, someone could be considered more spiritual, more gifted, more recognized, more charismatic, and that contributes to you feeling small or unseen. Like, these are very real, everyday type situations where comparison to other people is actually unhealthy, because you're looking at the fruit, you're looking at what it's producing in you. And just to bring all these things home a little bit, and like I said, give a healthy comparison or a healthy goal. Um, with social media, I just think it's really important to understand that you're seeing a highlight reel and you're not seeing the whole picture. And Honestly, I'm very grateful for that. I don't know if any of you guys are on TikTok recently, but I think I got on TikTok around COVID times, and they were sharing, this is like a bunny trail, by the way. They were sharing like things like dance videos, music, jokes. We were all being silly and um I want to say like ugly, authentic. Like we were just having fun. It was a very fun social media platform. And recently, scrolling on social media, there's just a lot of bad news. And so I am honestly very genuinely grateful to be scrolling through social media and seeing people's success, seeing people, do well at work, do well with their families, and go on vacation. Like, that is amazing. I celebrate that so much, and I do not take that for granted. I'm an empath, so constantly seeing, and you see, I'm already very sensitive to this, like, constantly seeing bad news, people getting murdered, shootings, sickness, families breaking apart. Like, that is heavy stuff. And seeing too much of that, like, I'm pretty sure I shared this before, but for every piece of negative information you have, you need 5 pieces of good, positive, uplifting information to make up for that in your brain. Like, that's a real thing. Um, and so, anyway, I think being able to have a healthy mindset with social media is really important to keep you from comparing yourself to others when they're sharing their highlight reels. Like, you should just be able to celebrate what's going on in another person's life. And when it comes to work stuff, like, I feel like it's just very important not to take everything personally. And this could be like a whole other topic, but having a tender, sensitive, humble heart is really important. And being able to acknowledge things that other people are doing well in their profession and in parenting and in ministry, you have to be able to do that. And someone else being celebrated does not mean that you are all of a sudden less than because, they got a compliment and you didn't. Or, you know, and the thing is, I give grace for people saying stuff wrong, but I do know that some people don't know how to watch what they say. Like, there's this mom friend that I have, and I really do consider her like a role model. She's definitely like the type A teacher type. Um, she takes her kids to the library. Like, I'm always asking about like the food and the meals that they're having. And it's just, she does a really great job with that kind of stuff. Um, it doesn't mean that she's perfect. I see her strengths and her weaknesses, but her strengths kind of encourage me to grow in areas where I'm weak. Like, there's things that she does for her kids that I didn't see in my household, and I genuinely consider that a learning experience for me. But I know people who could look in on her situation and, compare her version of motherhood to someone else's, and when you do that, you're creating the problem. Like, when you're saying, oh, you should do things like this mother because this mom does this and this and this and this. When you say things like that, you're creating an unhealthy comparison for that person. If someone is actively looking, and like I said, I'm the kind of person actively looking. If someone's actively looking for ways to do better, to stay more organized at home, to stay more organized with routines, to do things at home together and on weekends that are educational and stuff like that, you can just give ideas without saying, do it like this person. I don't know. I just feel like there's a way to say stuff, and you have to be very careful if the way that you're encouraging someone to grow is strictly by comparison. That's not to say that you can't refer someone to somebody. Like, hey, you know what, something I noticed, like, you're bringing up this conversation, you're saying that you really want to improve in this area. You may want to consider doing this and this and this. You might want to consider going to the library. You might want to consider having a recipe book. You might want to consider having an at-home calendar. And you know who's a really good person to talk to? This person, because I've seen what they do and they do it really well. Go talk to them. Like I just feel like there's a neutral way and a right way to deliver information so that you don't hold someone up against another person. So I'll give grace for that. I can understand where that comes from sometimes. But on a healthier level where you have a healthy disposition of your heart and you're able to see someone else, like a leader or an authority figure, giving praise to someone for the work that they're doing at home, at church, or in ministry, you should be able to say, yeah, you know what? They did a really good job. They did a really good job with that. And just because they got a compliment and I didn't, doesn't say anything about me. Like, that just says that they're doing a good job. And leave it at that. Yeah. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to even start this topic or have this conversation or set rules around comparison is because I feel like there's just a lot of ways that it can be a hindrance to people. There are studies that show that social comparison is linked to poor self-esteem, anxiety, and depressive symptoms. And when we compare upward, like when we compare to someone doing better, we feel worse about ourselves. We feel like more insecure, more fearful. And when we compare downward, when we compare ourselves to someone who's doing worse, that can lead to feelings of pride or false confidence. And both are dangerous. Both are honestly very, very dangerous. It also leads to, I think, overall reduced life satisfaction. Like there's some research from the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology that found that limiting social media reduces feelings of loneliness and FOMO, like fear of missing out. And like I said, when we're mindlessly scrolling, I think it's very easy to fuel comparison just because we're not paying attention to what we're watching and the thoughts that we're having while we're watching or scrolling or whatever. And yeah, so this is always a thing that I try to be very careful of. And I think because I'm always like, I think I wrestled with pride a lot as a kid. I wanted to be the center of attention. I wanted everything to be about me. I wanted to be special and famous. And I think I had a radical encounter with God, and he did something with me. But then I overcorrected in some areas, and now I feel well, that's a whole other conversation. But all that to say, I'm very observant of being prideful. I do not want to consider myself the most important person in a room. But I think the downside of being so focused on that sometimes is that I don't always fully acknowledge or celebrate areas where I'm successful, areas where I'm thriving and doing really well. I tend to belittle those. And like I said, I think that's overcorrecting. And at the end of the day, it's still not healthy. Like we have to be balanced. And so, anyway, here are some rules that I have within my own disposition when it comes to comparison. And when I share this with you guys, I want you to understand, like, there are thought processes associated with this that I kind of put into practice to make sure that I compare, if and when I'm comparing myself to people, it's in a healthy way. It's with a growth oriented mindset. It's with the ability to celebrate others for what they have going on and also encourage myself to do more and be better, because that's like genuinely my whole thing, especially in comparison to wanting to be like Jesus. So yeah, anyway, one of the rules I have is that I don't compare me to anyone but me. To me, what matters more when it comes to like success or spiritual growth or anything really, I want to know, am I better today than the person I was yesterday? Can I qualify that? Can I quantify that? Can I measure that? That's what matters to me. Am I improving? So I don't really care to compare myself to other people in terms of how well I'm doing. I like to compare me to me. Am I doing better than yesterday? That's the question I ask. And then when it comes to comparison in general, I have the understanding that comparison is a thief of joy. So in general, I just try to celebrate others, like I said, for whatever they have going on, wherever they are thriving and sharing on social media about all the highlights of their life. I love to see that. It's actually very refreshing to my soul. That's nice. I like that. But I'm not going to compare to an extent where I start wanting what they have just because I see that they have it. Like I have my own goals. Like, yes, I would like to go on vacation. Yes, I would like to thrive in business. Yes, I want to be promoted and be able to provide for myself and my family. Yes, I want time to just embrace the present moment. I want those things because I genuinely want those things. I don't want them because someone else has them. Another rule I have, and this is more of like a rule I have when I'm communicating to other people and encouraging them to grow, but also wanting to like point them to someone who might be able to help them better than me, is I can appreciate strengths and differences in other people without having to put it side by side against someone else's strengths and differences. Like, I don't have to say, how do I word this? I don't have to say, I guess we could use that worship one as an example. Like, I don't have to say, hey, you did really great today in worship. You were really leaning into the Holy Spirit. You did a great job encouraging and pushing the other people to join in along with what God was doing. I think that this is something that this other person should do. I think what you did today, this other person should be doing. I don't have to say that last part, or something like, oh, hey, you look really pretty today. You see, it's so hard for me to jump into other people's minds. This is why I try to stay away from trying to give examples, because I literally do not think how most people think. Like, this is such a thing that I stay away from, so it's so hard for me. But just saying like, oh, you look really pretty today. I wish this other person dressed like you, looked like you, talked like you, thought like you. Like, you don't have to say that last part. Just whatever it is that you're trying to say at the end, just don't say it. If something is objectively true, say what it is and leave it at that without putting it side by side to someone else. Do you get what I'm saying? So you're pretty, you're thoughtful, you are very wise, you have progressed this much. I really appreciate seeing that in you, like in your process, in your life. That's really great. Don't put it side by side to someone who is, more beautiful, also thoughtful, also wise. Like, just leave it to just take the other person out. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I genuinely do not know how else to describe that, because, like I said, I just don't think like that. Yeah. Anyway, all right, moving on to the next one. Oh, I kind of just add that note. Like, if you find beauty in the beautiful, call it beautiful. Don't compare it to something else that's beautiful. Just say the beautiful thing is beautiful and that's it. Okay. This is a thing that I'm, like I said, intentionally working on, because I feel like I overcorrected for some time, but don't minimize your wins. Don't consider your achievements small or unimportant compared to others. On the other flip side of that, like, don't get too prideful either. Don't overemphasize areas where you're successful. Be able to say like, hey, I did this really well. I think I think I was successful in reaching my goal. I can see where I progressed. I can see where I did well. I was productive. I was efficient. I was motivated, enthusiastic. Like, these are areas where I consider myself to be doing well most of the time. I can say that without using all those compliments, all those good things to prop myself up against a room full of people. Like, I can still be confident in who I am, the skills I have, what I bring to the table, without using all of that to elevate my ego. And like I said, we want to look at the fruit of comparison. Is it making me want to grow? Is it making me want to continue to endure? Is it making me happy? Is it refreshing my soul? Is it helping me to see that a goal that I have is actually possible and this is what it looks like? Or is it producing self-doubt, jealousy, low self-esteem, overall dissatisfaction? Is it making me feel less than or above other people? Because that's not the fruit we want to see. Yeah. And then just some like general mentalities that I have. Some of these are kind of backed with the Bible, but like I said, people say things imperfectly sometimes. And sometimes it's not always other people. Sometimes it's even ourselves. And at the end of the day, we have to remember who we are and whose we are. So before comparing ourselves to anybody for any reason, we have to always be secure in the fact that our identity comes from being made in God's image. Not the image of other people, God's image. And it has, our worthiness has nothing to do with what we do or what others think. We are already fully known and deeply loved because we're His. Another thing is, I guess, kind of similar to the whole social media topic, but we can't assume a full story just because someone has shared a highlight and a celebratory moment. Like, we never see the whole picture, so we can't judge the painting based on that. Like, what we see in social media is not behind the scenes. And like I said, I'm grateful for that. If all we had was bad news, that would be exhausting for me. But also, and this is where I start thinking very deeply, even if someone else is thriving and they're really happy and they have nothing going on in their life that is dark or depressing or taxing, or if they got no bad news, it's all just good news, that is beautiful and that is a gift. And I don't have to assume that something bad is going on in order to still celebrate them. Like, this is one of the areas where I am definitely a deep thinker and overthinker, because I want to make sure that I'm genuine. Like, I'm not celebrating what you put online because I assume that everything else behind the curtain is a disaster. Come on, you guys. Anyway, okay. Next thing I do, and y'all can already tell, I take every thought captive. I really do try to do that. And that's not to say that I do it perfectly, but it's definitely something I'm conscious of. And even looking back on some of the things I've said in episodes before, and things I've shared with friends, I can see strongholds that get built up when I don't take inventory of my thoughts. One of them right now, what's a common one that I've shared? Well, I'll just say like this recent one. This thought that I wrestle with is like almost contributing to a feeling that it's not good to obey God, or obeying God doesn't produce good things, or like there's no reward for following Him. That's a lie. Like, I know that's a lie, but I have to consciously fight against that stronghold because I've been sensing that really trying to be etched in me over the last several years. And there's a whole bunch of ways that that thought can be rephrased and reoriented so that it's not as noticeable. So even though this is something that I'm conscious about, it still takes work. But yeah, if a thought makes you feel less worthy, or, in the context of comparison, you need to challenge it. You can't nurture it. You can't let it slide. You have to shut down that lie with the truth. If comparison is leading to shame, insecurity, pride, call it out and ask, is this thought true? Is it loving? Is it from God? Like, do I need to hear this right now? And yeah, so that's a process I would invite the Holy Spirit in. And then let others' wins in life inspire you, not invalidate you. And I think you guys can kind of sense that theme in the way that I think and talk about this anyway. But you should be able to celebrate others without questioning your own worth. Another person's success doesn't diminish yours. Okay? What's theirs is theirs, what's yours is yours. So, especially, like I said, I think I more often compare myself when I'm trying to learn how to do something better in a certain area. So for me, it shows me what's possible. It shows me how to be successful. It shows me how to thrive. It gives me context for the thing that I'm going after. And yeah, I could have the more insecure perspective and think like, oh, okay, this person has it, I don't. Or, this is what I'm missing. This person is so much better. Like, those are unproductive thoughts. We have to shut down thoughts that are not encouraging us or pushing us to go further and go deeper. And then just in regards to scrolling, sometimes, like, if you're already in a low place, you're already depressed, you're already anxious, you're already insecure, like, you really need to just get off social media entirely or pause before you scroll. Because if you're emotionally vulnerable, social media is not going to be your safe space. I'm sorry. Limit your exposure when you're feeling low, and know that it's not a weakness to protect your peace. Like, you need to, yeah, just, I'll leave that at that. And then, I feel like pride and envy are like those very, very sneaky sins that sometimes go without being noticed. And if you are in a place where, like, you're hearing everything I'm saying and you're like, oh man, I really have some stuff to work on. Like, I think when I compare myself, it's producing envy and jealousy and bitter feelings and resentment toward other people. I want to encourage you to intentionally turn that around by praying and interceding and encouraging that other person. So pray to God, ask Him for help, intercede for them, bless them, and encourage them. And if you are, like, if your heart posture is like, why not me? Like, why isn't this happening for me? Why aren't I getting that? I would be asking God to show me who I am to Him, to give me a revelation of my value, to help me understand what it means to be His, like His child. Because if I'm entertaining a thought like, why is this happening for them but not me, or something like that, you can get lost. You can get very, very lost. It's very easy to lose direction there. And the way that you find your way back is by turning to Jesus and asking Him to light the way forward. And if I'm wrestling with these negative fruit, I'm like, God, like, something's not right with me. Like, something is, either I don't know you well enough, or I don't know myself in you well enough. I should be able to celebrate other people. I should be able to bless them and celebrate them. And That applies even in the context of enemies, people who hurt you, people who betrayed you, rejected you. In moments where I have felt challenged to pray for and bless people, and I felt a resistance in my soul about it, to me, that was an indicator, oh yeah, like I have to do this. I have to slap the devil in the face by praying for this person, blessing their house, blessing their marriage, blessing their ministry, praying that God would have the fullness of his will in this person's life to such an extent that they would be even greater than me. That's what I'm praying. When I sense hesitance in my spirit to pray for another person, that should, just like out of pure spite for the devil, make you want to go after it even more. That is to me, I could go into that topic a lot more deeper, but that's not what we're talking about. Anyway, next thing I want to say is to run your race. Like, I think timelines are a really big thing with people. And when you're seeing where people are in their lives and their journeys, you can like look in on yourself and be like, oh man, like I'm running a little late. But your timeline is your timeline. Your life is your life, and theirs is theirs. Don't get so caught up in the pace of things. And again, this is like another area where I would encourage you to pray and ask God for an accurate vision of what your life is supposed to look like. Even if it's just for the next month, like, God, what do you want my life to look like this month? Where do you want me to be at the end of the year? What would success look like in your eyes for me, at this point in time? What unrealistic expectations do I need to let go of? What do I need to appreciate about my delay? I think that happens sometimes. I think there are some times where we have to appreciate not being put into something we're not ready for. So run your race, focus on what you have going on, and consider the success like objective. Like, let's say, I've shared this goal with you guys before. I would really love for this to be a full-time business. And it requires a lot of investment of time. It's a learning experience. I don't do it perfectly. There are a lot of growth opportunities, honestly. There are definitely things I could be doing better to push faster toward my goal. And I know people my age and younger who are already at a point where they're making more than a full-time income doing this. And I can get stuck and be like, man, like, what am I doing wrong? Or what is it about me? Or why isn't this happening for me? Like, man, I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting depressed. Like, this sucks. I'm doing all this work for nothing. Or I could be like I said, there are definitely some growth opportunities. There's definitely room for me to be more strategic with what I'm doing so that I'm making more of an impact, even if it's with a smaller thing. And I think the thing that reconciled it all for me overall was thinking, like, if I can reach that point of success at all in my life, I'd be very grateful. And I'd be very grateful to God, because I have never in my life, like, seen someone be successful in this area enough to make an income doing it. To me, that success is just reaching the goal at all, point blank, period. Yeah. So anyway, let's see. I think I just wanted to share a handful of some Bible verses that can shed light on the idea of comparison. And one of them is in John 21, verses 21 to 22. When Peter saw John, he asked, Lord, what about him? And this was after, yeah, you have to read the full story to get the full context. But Peter was basically comparing his process of obedience and submission to John's. And anyway, Jesus answered, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." So following Jesus looks different for different people. And even me, sometimes I can get stuck being like, man, it's not fair. What's in it for me? Like, what was the point? We have to stay focused on our own calling, on our own relationship with God, on our own discipleship. We have to focus on what it means for us as individuals to follow Jesus. And that can apply to different domains also. Like, it doesn't just have to be with ministry or Christianity. It can also do with business. It can also do with family. But someone else's journey is their journey, and ours is ours. And we just kind of have to embrace what we have. Galatians chapter 6 verses 4 to 5 says, each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else, for each one should carry their own load. So focus on your own lane, and God holds us accountable to our own path. And then 2 Corinthians 10:12 says, oh, don't worry, we wouldn't dare say that we are his as wonderful as these other men who tell you how important they are. But they are only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as a standard of measurement. How ignorant. We should be comparing ourselves to Jesus. Like, honestly. Comparing ourselves to other people really does create a distorted, man-made standard, not a godly one. And you guys already know, like, I'm very big on this, especially when it comes to love. I feel like the world keeps saying, oh, I love you, I love this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't even know what love is. You don't even know, like, how taxing it is to love people and to love flawed people the way that God loves people. Like, love is a lot. Love is self-sacrificing. Love is selfless. Love is a lot of things that you are not. So let's practice being better people, knowing what love is, practicing loving before we just go out and say, oh, I love you. All right, mini rant over for that one. And then lastly, Psalm 139:14, it says, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. You are seen, known, and loved by God. You were handcrafted by God, and you were not mass-produced to match someone else. If I genuinely believe that if you are secure and solidified in your faith to a point where you know God is, you know how he is, you know his character, you know his judgment, you know his goodness, you know his love. If you really genuinely know God and you know who you are in him, that you are a son or daughter, that you are a royal priesthood, that you are his beloved and he's yours, if you know how precious you are to him on like a practical level, if you know what it looks like in your daily life to be his on a daily basis, moment by moment, that is going to be your biggest strength to help you fight against unhealthy comparison. And I feel like that should be everyone's main goal and main objective, especially when we're seeing unhealthy fruit with comparison. Is like, God, help me to see you, help me to see myself. Because if I'm all of a sudden being prideful, insecure, jealous, envious, bitter, spiteful, something's not right with me, and I need your help to do better, to know better, to see better. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have for today. If you found this helpful, or if you want me to go into this topic in greater detail, or talk about, one topic that I mentioned in here, one of the bunny trails, let me know. I really hope that this helps you. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for listening. Feel free to DM me to send me your feedback. Check out the description below to follow me on social media. This podcast is listener supported. Don't forget to subscribe. Remember, you are fully known and deeply loved. I'll see you in the next one.